Hello and welcome back to Project 944. We are once again here at LUDEN Automotive, and today we're going to be doing something very different to the last episode you saw. Last episode, needless to say, went, how shall we say, not well. So we're not going to be doing the brakes today, and in fact we have actually done some work on them, which I'm going to talk you through in a minute. But what we're going to be doing today is taking a look on the underside of the car for sort of any corrosion and rust spots, and we're going to be protecting those areas until we can get it into a body shop. Now, you may want to be doing this just because you want general maintenance and to stop any sort of rust on your version of the car. It doesn't even have to be a 944 you're working on, it's just good to do. So that's what we're going to be doing today.
Tuesday. I got food up in the fridge. Y'all keep looking for that.
So today we're going to be using two products. Both of them are from Hammerite. We're going to be using Cure Rust to kind of, you can hopefully zoom in on that, and it should get nice and focused. Cure Rust is fantastic for treating rust, although I must say it's not be all end all. It's the kind of products that you can use to treat the area to kind of stop the corrosion from getting any further. However, to put on top of it, you'll need actual Hammerite to stop any further rust getting in. Now, I do want to mention these are temporary solutions. The car will be going into a body shop, but these will fix the issues and stop it from getting worse until we can treat it correctly. Okay, so let's have a quick recap about the 944's brake situation. After our attempts last week failed beyond belief, we asked Luke's mechanics to come and take a look at the brake calipers, and they were indeed seized as we thought. Now, this is some comfort that perhaps it wasn't just us being imbeciles, but regardless of this, the front wheels now have brand new discs and pads on them. All we need to do now is replace the rears with new brake shoes because I forgot to buy them, and then we will be ready to rock and roll. Okay, so I think the first thing we're going to do is, much like how Jared did with his MR2, we're going to go around the car and see what the problems are. Now, I'm not expecting this to be wonderful because it's been sat for 10 years doing nothing. There are going to be parts of the car that are severely corroded and will need attention. Already I can see that the actual wishbones and track rod arms are okay. This side is a little bit worn. I think though that is only the actual casing surrounding the track rod that is cracking and not the track rod itself. Fortunately, the arms are fairly clean. Track rod ends, actually not too bad. They're not awful. They could be better, but they're not awful. Suspension could do with a little bit of a refresh, but that's really sort of it's not important as long as they work, which they don't. If we head towards the back of the car, I think we'll start seeing some more issues. Surprisingly, the midsection underside is very clean, which is particularly unusual on this car. These clips are a little bit corroded. Again, it's a 30-year-old car, got to kind of expect that. The sills this side look like they've already had some repair work done. So hopefully these are okay. I mean, it depends on the quality of the repair work. So whether that's something we'll need to revisit in the future, possibly. This section here, you may want to come towards this side a little bit more. This section here is a big problem. Fortunately, it's not structural. This is a panel that can be replaced quite easily, but blood, you can just put your finger in there, no problem at all. So we will need to treat this area. Now, I'm going to say this out loud. There's not much we can do to stop that. That's already gone past the point of where you can properly treat it. All we can do is maybe just protect it for now so it doesn't get worse. The danger of doing that is that you can actually trap moisture into the paintwork. So we'll try and need to get rid of as much as it as possible without making it too much worse. But again, that's the side of the car where the crash impact was from the Hilux. So I suppose somewhat understandable that maybe water's gotten in there since the time it was outside for a little bit. Fortunately, the other side only has it on the actual, some of it has fallen off. Perfectly in time for the camera, but this actually isn't too bad. That side isn't too bad. That's just general wear, I'm pretty sure, from the age of the car. To be honest, the entire underside could do with a clean. We won't be doing that in this video, just saying. But I think maybe a lot of this could do with being cleaned and just tidied up a little bit more so we can actually see where the majority of the issues are. But I think with all that said, let's get to work. The first stage before we could even think about applying any protection was to sand back all the areas in which we'll be applying paint in order to make the area nicer for the Hammerite to stick to. Fortunately, this went quite well, and there was no unforeseen circumstances or nasty hidden surprises. So I think as well what we're going to do is, because there's only certain sections we can really do realistically with the Cure Rust at the moment, because there's a part of me that's thinking if we should just treat this with Cure Rust for now and then just leave it. We won't Hammerite it, because I think when we come to repair that, it will just make the job harder and it's going to get cut out anyway. So we'll just Cure Rust that for now. But what I thought we could also do is I've also started cleaning up some of the parts under here, so they just visually they look a little bit better. And also I think we're going to sand back the drive lines here and Hammerite these so they're nice and black as well, just because, again, it'll look cleaner. And while we're under here, we might as well. So let's get to it. As well as the rust spots at the rear of the car, we also wanted to sand back the drive lines and the rear trailing arms. There's absolutely no mechanical reason for this other than cleaning them up so they look a little nicer and more presentable. I suppose you could also argue that it keeps them in better condition for future jobs as well. So, all going well so far then. So I just had a pretty interesting idea. So when with these control arms and supports over here that we're polishing, I was thinking maybe we could use the Autosol metal polish that we use on Jared's 944 exhaust.
944 exhaust?
Sorry, MR2 exhaust.
Not 944.
not a 944 exhaust just yet.
Big chrome tip.
Yeah, it's literally, that's all it's got. A chrome trip. The rest of it is just normal steel, which is a little bit disappointing. But
yeah.
But we're going to use this on those arms to see if they come up any nicer. And while I'm doing that, Jared is currently doing the other side's drive arm or drive shaft, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, should be pretty interesting soon. We'll see how this goes. So now that we had finally finished sanding back everything, it was time to clear up the area before painting. So surprisingly, this has actually come up way better than we expected. Now I've got some brake cleaner, again, not really what you're meant to be using for this sort of thing, but to be honest, when you clean it, it's come up really lovely. I mean, as I said, the idea for this wasn't to get it absolutely pristine per se, but it definitely has made a difference. It looks so much cleaner. I mean, there's only so much you can do while it's on the car, I suppose. If you wanted to do it properly, you'd have to take the car back to a shell or maybe take a drill bit with some wire on the end to get it really clean. But for the tools that we've got at the moment and for the time we've spent, it's been fantastic. I mean, we'll do a before and after shot of the arm polished, or with the metal polish, and the unpolished version, which you can see over here. There's quite a substantial difference. If you switch back to this one now, it's pretty obvious. So yeah, I mean, I'd say that's been pretty good. So we'll clean this up. We'll get Hammerite on the control arms to make the drive line, to get them looking nice and clean. And then we'll attack the other one. Cool, so now most of it has been sanded back and polished. Time for Hammerite. Now we're only going to be doing the drive line control shaft things, just to make them look a little bit cleaner. We don't need to do it, but you know what? Why not? Looks good. Might as well. Now, fortunately, I have had experience with Hammerite in the past, so hopefully this shouldn't go too badly. Right, let's try and get some of this on here. Don't probably need too much really because it's already quite okay, but I just want to get some on there so it looks a little bit more attractive really. As I said, don't really need to be doing this, it's just that I think for the sake of, while we're under here, just make it look a little bit prettier, so to speak. Should come out all right, to be honest. I can't see there being any sort of major issues with this. Just want a light coat over the top to stop it from rusting anymore, or oxidizing I should say. You don't really have to worry about these kind of parts of the car. Painting the drive lines was actually much easier than I was expecting, and the sanding we'd done previously certainly helped with getting a smooth coat. In an ideal world, we'd take them off and respray them, but ultimately, you won't be able to see them much anyway, so this should be fine. In the future, I'd be quite keen to also powder coat some other areas underneath the car, but for now, this should do the job and keep things running until we get it back on the road. Okay, so time for cure rust. This suggests that you put it in a pot. We don't have a pot, so we're going to use it out of the thing, out of its own pot. Should be fairly straightforward. We've got a brush, apply it on, see what happens. It doesn't have to be perfect. As I said, this isn't like a long-term preventative measure for us. It's short-term to make sure the car just stays protected until we can get it sorted. You may be able to use this for long-term. However, I wouldn't suggest kind of taking what we're doing here as gospel, because we really don't. We have no idea what we're doing at all. We just put videos on the internet and hope that you guys like them. So yeah, I think let's give it a go and see what happens. Right, let's see how this does. I mean, we've got already one problem, is that the brush is already too big, but then again, it's not really the end of the world. It's interesting. It's almost like a, I don't really know what it is. It's sort of just a paste that you put on. I can't really see how this sort of prevents rust really, but I mean, Hammerite aren't exactly a unknown brand, so it must do something. So if you missed it earlier, we're not going to properly Hammerite this area. We're just going to cure rust it, just so it can kind of be protected from the elements that it may. It's just really to protect it from any sort of worse corrosion. I don't think it's going to be anything, magnificent or too bad. It's just that I want to get it on there, so when we get the bodywork done finally properly, it hasn't gotten worse. It is a bit worrying though, because it's kind of as we're applying this, more bits are falling off. So it just goes to show you how bad this really is. It's just completely coming down everywhere. Not ideal, but I suppose that's the enjoyment of a classic car. More to the point, a classic Porsche. I can't really see how this is going to magically cure all the rust, but I'm pretty sure all it does is it oxidizes the rust that's already on there and gets rid of it. It eats into it, and then you leave it for a few hours, and then you can paint over the top of it. But to be honest, this doesn't really need much more. We'll do the other side as well, but beside that, I mean, I can't really see how much more effective this is going to be. Interestingly, the cure rust consistency was much more watery than standard Hammerite, so its application was fairly easy, and it turned out quite well in the end, as when dry, it turned blue and black. Well, that's it for today's episode of Project 944. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like below and a comment on what else you think we should do to this car. As always, many thanks to LUDEN Automotive for housing us and letting us borrow his workshop for the work we're doing on the Porsche. Be sure to check him out in the links in the description below as well. And also, one more thing, we have a podcast. Be sure to check that out in the description below. Every Wednesday of every week, brand new episodes, so don't miss out on them. For now, that's all. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.